Do you dream of writing a novel? When you feel the urgency to write a novel, you aren't making it up. When that urgency won't let go, there's a reason. Turn your readers into raving fans. Reveal the power of your voice and your story. Writing is an act of courage, and you have what it takes. How to Write a Novel That Sells by Lana McAra will take you across the finish line. Visit howtowriteanovelthatsells.net and take that powerful next step now.
Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
Have you ever thought about collaborating with another author? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Lana McAra, and welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast, tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I'm delighted to welcome two guests to the broadcast. Ed Mickolus has written over 50 books so far, ranging from terrorism studies to humor. He had a wide-ranging 33-year career at the CIA. He founded a research company. He teaches intelligence, mentors writers, collects neckties and classic cars, and is even a recovering stand-up comedian. We're going to hold you to that, Ed.
No pressure.
Tracy Tripp is an award-winning multi-genre author. She grew up in upstate New York, where she earned her bachelor's at the State University of Oswego and master's in education at Buffalo State College. After years of teaching, she decided to stay home with her 3 children and follow her passion for writing. Tracy has written 5 novels and 2 children's books. She lives in Jacksonville, Florida with her husband, 3 grown children, and first grandbaby. You can see more about Tracy at tracytripp.com. And of course, that'll be in the show notes. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit before because we're both in Sisters in Crime together, and we kind of, moved together here in the Jacksonville area. And this topic of collaboration came up, and I'm really excited to explore that because I haven't done any interviews on collaboration before. So tell us a little bit about your own collaborative effort. How did that work for you? How did you meet and decide to collaborate?
Ed, want me to start?
Absolutely. Have at it.
Okay, so we were at a writing festival, so we were both had our tables, and I was writing a book that I thought was chock full of CIA stuff. So I was asking around, saying for someone to be my beta reader, and they directed me to Ed's table. And Ed agreed to be my beta reader. And first thing he said was, you need to just change one word, CIA. And everything was FBI. But so he got me straight, and he was my beta reader for the next 2 books. And then he approached me to with an idea about an investigator solving crime through hearing like clues in a walkie-talkie, and said, he gave me a list of, and that was the one that intrigued me the most. And he said, go anywhere you want with it. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to tackle that. And that was how it all started.
So you, Tracy, had like a seed thought, and then Ed brought in the more detailed technical parts of how it would actually work. Is that how you worked your collaboration, Ed?
That's essentially what she had in mind. She didn't need all that much help from me because it was not, in fact, a CIA novel. It was an FBI novel. And while I taught at the FBI Academy, which is as cool as you would hope it is,
Mhm.
Nonetheless, there wasn't a lot of CIA-specific stuff that she needed. There were a few language oddities in how bureau folks speak versus how police speak, so I threw those in. But the book was just solid. But when I was reading it, I thought, God, she can write so much better. There is no chance that I can do this as well as she does. I wonder if we ought to do something together and not just have me admire her work. So, pitched her on a bunch of different ideas that I've had kicking around, which I dutifully share whenever I talk to Sisters in Crime or Florida Writers Association or something like that. And every now and then, someone like Tracy will say, oh, that sounds like a cool idea. Let's explore that. So we're kicking around another one at the moment. Someone approached me saying, why don't we take a look at your idea for a serial killer who retires at a place much like where you have retired to? And there are a few others that people have said, oh, let's look into this. So,
Wow, that's very interesting.
always exciting.
Yes, yes. So give us the name of the book that you collaborated on.
It was White Noise Whispers,
White
which,
Noise Whispers.
yes, and the title actually, it was kind of came about in an interesting way. I actually didn't really think that was going to be the title. I just I need a title when I'm writing. It's something to make it, I don't know. I just need that title. Sometimes I even create a cover for it and just get that in my head. But so it was just filler, but I was on an airplane and I was writing and editing and doing all that. And then when we landed, the man next to me was like he was probably in his 70s, and he hadn't spoken one word the whole time on the flight. And then he said, as we were approaching the gate, he said, I hope you don't mind, but I was looking over your shoulder and reading your story. And he's like, your title just so caught my attention because I was in Vietnam, and this is a war story, the White Noise Whispers, and or partially a war story. And he said, that's exactly how we explained how you went into battle, and how you felt when you were in battle. It was just white noise, and that's how you got through it. And the man, it was besides me because he just seemed still so sad from the Vietnam War. And he said, I said, oh, I would love your input on it if you would like to read it. And he said, maybe that would help me. But then I never heard from him again. But I did. I was writing the scenes. I kept him in mind. Number one, I love that the title resonated with someone who had been in war, but also it made me remember to make sure that whatever happened was very respectful, that these people were traumatized going through what they went through. And it is kind of, the book comes about, it is about a serial killer. But just to remember the human side of each soldier, whether they turn out good or bad or whatever, was that human side, because this man was a long ways out from the Vietnam War and he was still traumatized from it. So I hope that we did justice in respecting the soldiers as well.
Yes. And could you weigh in on how you volleyed the manuscript back and forth between?
Sure. I really wanted to capture Tracy's voice, which is far more writerly than mine is. I had written 50, count 'em, nonfiction books and 0, count 'em, 0 novels. She clearly knows what she's doing in getting inside the heads of characters. So we would kick around for a while what we should do in the next chapter. We also thought about, should this be a pantser style book or should it be outlined? we agreed on essentially a line of march rather than a hardcore outline per se. And she would write something, send it over to me. I'd say, we could be assisted by, in this case, I found a guy who was a general in the particular Iraq War battle that she was writing about. So went to interview him, chatted a bit about what the language of the book was, changed a few specifics on here's how we would say this, or here's what our equipment looked like. I did that with a bunch of psychologists and psychiatrists when they were dealing with the serial killer as well. Met with a bunch of different police officers on how they talk to each other. There's a specific patois that sounds like English, but it is just inter-cop talk. And that cop talk changes in dialect depending upon where you are, even down to the precinct. So someone who's working for JSO sounds different from SJSO, sounds different from Clay County, never mind NYPD, LAPD, etc. But I interviewed a bunch of cops and got stories from them and the language from them. And I also got FBI language as well. So I was able to contribute that way. And every now and then I'd say, besides this interpersonal research that we need, we also need physical research. So one day, Tracy went out to a local university and found a body dump site.
After church, so it made it okay. But if I could interject that, so Ed was very patient, and this was one thing that why it worked with us too, is that he had his idea. Like you could describe his idea within a couple sentences, but it still was like his baby, his idea. And he gave me such freedom because I am a pantser. I will only do an outline once. And if anyone doesn't know pantser, which I know you both do, but I write into the idea forms. And then once I get to a certain place, I can start to outline. But the characters are coming alive in my head. The story's coming alive in my head. And how that happens with me is if I just let my fingers go across the keyboard and see what happens. If I'm going to outline, it's just more difficult. That's just not how my brain works with it. I wish in some ways I could, because it would maybe make the writing faster. But I have to wait till the story just evolves in my brain. So with that being said, Ed sometimes wouldn't know what was coming his way. We could have discussed some characters or this idea, and then my fingers went somewhere totally else. Like, why did I end up in the Iraq War when I have nothing? I don't know anything about it. But that's how the story just goes where it's going to go. And Ed was so patient and gave me that freedom to do that. And I think that's how it really worked with us too, because if it was, I've never had to say, oh, this is the story we're writing and this is the outline, and maybe that would work for me, but this particular story worked because I had the freedom to go, and then he was just like that safety net underneath you, saying, okay, you've got yourself in the Iraq War and know nothing about it. Let's figure out and I had some people I knew in the Marines to help me with what kind of weapons. Like I would just freeze on a paragraph because I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I can't talk like them. I'd have to stop and listen to whole series just to get down and take notes just to get the language and different things, because as much as Ed was finding people and researching, I can't write it if it's not flowing. So I had to do that as well. So Ed's gave me the freedom to let my mind go, and then he just was there like, okay, where are we going now, and fixing the mistakes I would make along the way. So it worked really well like that.
And the element of surprise was always entertaining and exciting. Oh boy, a new Tracy chapter. I know it's going to be wonderfully written. It'll have more insight into what the characters are thinking that I could possibly offer. I'll throw an idea out to Tracy, and she'll come back with final text that is much greater than what I had originally thought of. So it's always fun to work with her and see her next product. So I've continued being a beta reader or an alpha reader or an omega reader. Who knows?
I'm going to just keep going with all your compliments and not even, I won't say that they're not true because that doesn't help me one bit, but we'll go with that. We'll go with I'm an amazing writer and I do great things, but he's always very complimentary and I appreciate it.
So what's key in all of this are some takeaways for you, Lana. The first thing is that you have to respect the other writer and really appreciate what they bring to the table. You have to ask yourself, what am I decent at? But if the other writer is better at it than you are, okay, go with them for that particular thing to do. Read widely in the genre that that person is writing in to make sure that you are comfortable with their style. She had written in a genre that I hadn't been in before, but as I got to get used to her writing, I was thinking, boy, this is something I should have been reading some time ago. This is just great stuff. I want to be a part of this. So figure out what you do well and what your gaps are, and go find a person who can fill in those gaps. And then figure out from there, okay, you'll take care of this part of creating the book. I'll take care of this part of creating the book. So, for example, I like collecting data. And among the things you can collect is a character Bible. I created little photos of what each of the characters would look like. So on page 5, she's got blue eyes. On page 187, she still has blue eyes. And we did little backstory bios that don't have to appear in the book, but nonetheless, you can have these sprayed in front of you or on the wall or whatever, and you know who you're talking about at any given time. And it's just easier to visualize. So I took care of that part, and then she actually put the characters together and got them spinning in the plot. There are other things that you need to do in a book, and just make sure that you have figured out who's going to do what, and that they can rely upon you and you can rely upon them. That kind of reliance on each other and constantly communicating is key. I'm sure that we wrote hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and met often, phoned often. You have to always keep in constant contact.
How long did it take you to do the project from beginning to end?
I think it was about 1.5 years, wouldn't you say?
Probably. Now, that's the writing of it. That's not the trying to find the agent, trying to find the publisher. That's just the writing of it. And it probably could have been faster if I wasn't working on other projects as well. As you'll note, if we talk about prolific writing, I tend to be writing 4 or 5 books at once. So sometimes I couldn't get back to Tracy immediately. She might have to wait a day for me to move on.
Wow. So you got a traditional publisher for that?
Yes. The Wildwood is the publisher.
Wildwood?
Wild Rose.
Wild Rose. Wild Rose Press. Okay, now that is impressive. To land a traditional publisher today is not an easy matter.
Yes.
We were overjoyed.
I'm sure. So how did you find the publisher? Was it someone that is local here, or?
They gave a presentation at Florida Writers, I think it was St. Augustine. And they also brought with them a beautiful calendar that had the covers of the books of every book that they had published that year, which I thought was just a neat thing to do. So we approached them along with multiple others. Tracy did most of the work on that. Over to you, Tracy.
Well, I feel like we were actually lucky too, like, because you can hear people reach out to 100 publishers, and we did land someone fairly quickly in 10 to 20, I would say. And that was pretty good that we landed someone pretty quickly. We had to work with some of the contract things and make, work out some of those things. But yeah, we were very happy with that. And it's nice to have someone help you with the final editing and cover and things of that nature. And also when you get they're good about their little writing group, and a lot of people are sharing ideas for marketing and different things like that. So it is nice to have that traditional publisher sometimes.
So as far as your agreement with each other, did you have anything written down? What did that look like?
Probably not the traditional way of going about things. I think it was more of the just verbal agreement, and it's not necessarily something I recommend, but it worked for us because money can make people funny. And if you just happen to write that one that makes $1 million, and you don't know that you have until it's written and it's out there, then it's too late to put something in writing. Ed and I, we don't need to squabble over any of that. It's never been anything about that. It was more about the art of, finishing the project and seeing the book written. But I would recommend having something, even if it's a minor thing, in writing, just in case it ended up something really big and then it got funny. But I recommend just defining that a little clearer. But luckily for us, we never had any problems with that. It was really more a handshake over coffee, like, here we go, and we agreed on it. And then also things like you have to trust each other. There has to be a big trust, because like with our publisher, only one name can go on it. So Ed always has to trust me that I'm telling him, like, this is what's going on, and different things like that. So that end we never really had an issue with, but there could be issues that you want to protect against, so I would just recommend getting something in writing. I
think we just had maybe a back of a napkin agreement. Here's stuff we need to do. What do you like to do? Okay, here's what I like to do. What are you good at? Oh, good. It's the same stuff.
Yes.
So that's pretty much what we had.
Mm-hmm.
We stuck to it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great.
So far, so good. We haven't made those millions to go to court over. That'll be a good problem to have.
So
I think we have in the contract who gets what, don't we?
I think
in the contract with the publisher.
Yes, I think we do with the publisher. I think it is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest to any of your writers to have a contracts attorney or a copyright attorney look at the proposed contract before you go forward. I have always used one. She's been a delight. Doesn't cost a huge amount of money. And they will, A, keep you out of jail, and B, prevent you from doing something stupid simply because you don't understand the legal language.
That's good advice. I collaborated with an author on 2 books.
Wow.
We had a third in the pipeline. The first book went well. The second book, which was a different topic, it wasn't a sequel, it was a different one, was the same publisher because at that point my publisher was taking everything I did. And so my co-author got in on my coattails. And so the second book he took the final draft and made some very large changes and sent them into the publisher, and they published it. And they did not realize I had not approved of the last draft. And I didn't know about any of this until the book came out. So you just, it's so heartwarming to me to find out that your collaboration has worked for you, and that, all went well, and all went well for me too at the beginning. But then when there was a measure of success, then I ran into some problems with this guy. So we ended up breaking the collaboration, and we had 2 contracts, a sequel for each of the books. And the publisher offered us the option of him taking one and me taking the other sequel, which that's what we did. But I never did write mine. They let me go because they gave me the book that had been changed. And once those changes had been made, I no longer could write the sequel to it because I was blocked on it. I had to follow through with the characters that weren't the same as they originally had been. And that was not easy for me to do. So I just say that to say this. What are the pitfalls that you may have realized? And I want both of you to weigh in on that. Ed, go ahead and...
well, certainly the ones that you did. You didn't have sufficient communication from your partner, so you got blindsided. I would bet that not a day went by that we didn't exchange at least one email or one phone call or one chat over coffee. And that just kept us moving along smartly. Outside of Tracy would come up with a great chapter that was somewhat of a surprise, Tracy always had a more interesting perspective on the characters than I did, and would come up with something really clever that I really admired. I knew roughly where the plot might be going, but nonetheless, she would always have a flash of brilliance when she was writing that she's got to get that down, so let's get it down. We also agreed that we wouldn't edit ourselves to death as we were moving along. We always had, let's get the book done first. You've heard the perfection is the enemy of the good enough. So we were always focused on getting out an excellent product. And Tracy's first drafts are always excellent anyway. I'm there essentially just to enjoy the show and do a bit of proofreading here and there. So that is certainly key. Sometimes ignoring what your consigliere suggests, your attorney, can get you in trouble. So make sure that that part of the collaboration is going well for you as well. I don't add an awful lot in marketing. Tracy's been doing most of the work on that. I know a few newspaper editors here and there, but that's frankly about it. So she knows social media far better than I do, and has been able to harness that for our book.
That brings up a good point, and that is after the book is out, the marketing part of it has to also be considered. Right. Tracy?
And I come from a tradition. I've been writing books for over 40 years now. And I came from an academic tradition. Granted, I was at CIA, but my books are academic style. I had 7 or 8 different academic houses. And with them, they take care of all the marketing for you. You're in catalogs. They go to all of these large conventions at Frankfurt and put your book out there prominently. They get you into bookstores. They got me on BBC World, on NPR on a Sunday or Saturday morning, and the like. You didn't have to worry about doing any of that spade work yourself. They took care of it all. Nowadays, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Unless your name is Grisham.
Right. Tracy, did you have any pitfalls that you...
I honestly, I feel very fortunate with our partnership because I can't say we had any pitfalls, but things that when you look into doing that could be pitfalls. So I was the writer on it. So we didn't have to worry about matching styles, but that's one thing to keep in mind, because just because someone's in your same genre, you really need to read their work and make sure your writing styles are the same so that like that I haven't ever had to experience matching your writing style so it flowed. So you want to really make sure that you like their writing. Another pitfall that could happen that didn't happen with us, like, because yes, I'm social media, but I'm not good with getting into newspapers. So Ed was great with that. We each had our own little thing that we could do. But to think about what your brand is and who you want your audience to see you as. And if you partner up with someone, you will share a brand a little bit. So if that person writes things that you don't, or they say things on social media that you wouldn't, then that's becomes a part of you while you're marketing that book. So you want to research that person and make sure that they're not going to affect your brand and have people perceive you in a different light, better, worse, whatever, but just different than you want to be perceived as. So those two things, make sure that you match up both in the marketing techniques and the writing techniques, and make sure that they have something to bring to the table. The marketing is hard, and I'm setting up vendor event things and sweating and getting rained on, and I'm out there doing that kind of thing, and I'm doing the social media, and then Ed could bring the part of like getting us out there on newspapers that I have no connections with that. So we each had something to bring to the table. So look at that. How many followers people have, what can they bring to the table? Maybe divide that up. Because that's really important, because it's hard, as we all know, like you write a book, it is so not done right there. The marketing, if you don't do that, your book just falls into, nothingness. And so maybe define like, okay, when we go to market, how many people are on your social media? How can you grow that? What things outside of social media can you offer? Or, how are we going to get the book out there? And divide up those duties, because it is a lot of work, and you don't want to hurt a friendship or, even a colleague friendship by then realizing this person's a slacker, that person's not holding up their end of the bargain. So know that person, and it takes a while to write a book and then market it. It's a couple of years you're in with that person. So make sure you're choosing wisely with that.
Those are really good points.
And even with the book out when did this thing come out, Tracy? 2 years now?
Yeah, at least.
We're still flogging it. Witness what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we give a presentation anywhere, a conference, Florida Writers, Sister in Crime, we still are flogging that book among the rest of the ones that we do. So it's an ongoing performance for that particular book, as well as our other books.
Have you co-presented at a conference or some speaking thing or anything like that?
No. I think I've gone to places where you've presented, and then you will point me out in the audience, like at Florida Writers. But I don't think we have done one together, only interviews with the newspapers. We've done those together.
Mm. Okay, I could see this as an interesting panel where there may be, 4 people on the panel, 2 sets of collaborators talking about this. This would be a really good discussion, because everyone has, their nuances, right? How the relationship works. With my collaboration, my partner was tech savvy to bring that to it, but he was also wonderful at plotting. he was the one who was sending me the chapters, and I was always surprised and couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. And then I would bring in the fleshing out of the characters and making the dialogue realistic and adding the polish to, what he was doing. So it was a little different for us.
Sure.
But
and it's going to be for any partnership.
Yes.
Each of you brings something entirely different than the two of us individually will bring.
Yes.
And the lessons that you learn, you and I will discuss this further down the road in another podcast. But I also do massive multiple collaborations. I don't know what the term is for a chain authored book, but at the moment I have two groups of 16 authors who each write a chapter in essentially a relay race. So trying to keep the voice the same in that is a major undertaking.
Sure. Wow. Well, this has been very informative. I'm so glad we had this conversation, because I know that a lot of authors, we get in these conversations with other creative people, and all these possibilities come up, and following through on it, that's not usually what happens. It usually just ends with a coffee break, So you have done a wonderful job. White Noise Whispers by...
Hey, that's a good point, too, that I want to point out. The one thing I did, because I was collaborating and it was my first really crime fiction, I went with T.S. Tripp. Do not recommend that at all, because it's people don't search Tracy Tripp. If you search Tracy Tripp, you might not see it. You have to search T.S. Tripp, which if people don't remember, then it's not very searchable. So I would have preferred that I just kept Tracy Tripp, and then it was more searchable. But this one is T.S. Tripp and Ed Mickolus.
And you're both on the cover?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So do you have a website for that book in particular?
It's on my website, tracytripp.com, and you can read about it there and contact me. And I don't know is it on your website?
It is edwardmickolus.com, and you have to dig into where are his novels, as I have sections on my terrorism books, my intelligence books, inspiration, humor, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there, have faith. And we're also going to put your podcast on our sites as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that. So what's coming up for you guys? What are you doing now? Anything?
Tracy, over to you.
Okay, so right now I'm in the editing phase of my book that right now is called Broken Pieces. I really like this book because, White Noise Whispers was very hard to write because it was stuff I did not know, but I was very proud of it when I wrote the words at the end. This one, on the other hand, is I grew up on a dairy farm. And when my dad passed away, my siblings wanted me to write a book about his life. Well, you quickly realize your life is not that exciting. So it's exciting to you. You got a few family secrets, but then you realize you can't even tell those. So no one's going to read it. So instead, I have a body discovered in the cornfield, and the mafia is involved, which makes it so much more exciting. But the fun part was there are true family memories in there. And just the memories of growing up on the farm. And it was so much easier to write because I got to walk down memory lane. And even making it fiction, if people would still be like, why'd you say that about that person? I'm like, it's not even that person. So it should be different enough from my life that no one in my family will take offense, but close enough that I got to walk down memory lane a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is a crime fiction, and I'm really proud of it. So hopefully I will have it out there. I'm still editing, and I'll probably look for an agent, but as any writer knows, that is like finding a needle in a haystack. You just can't. But hopefully within a year, it will be out there.
Okay. So you're doing that one alone?
Yes.
Ed?
Although I was a beta
Yes.
and alpha reader for it. So
Yes, Ed is my beta reader, grammar corrector for everything I do, my newsletters, everything. I'm like, Ed, sending you.
And I enjoy reading it, so it's always welcome when it shows up. Stop me if I go over time. I've got 12 books coming out in the next, let's say, 12 months.
Oh my gosh.
So one of them is just a 7-volume study of State of the Union honorees, where a president will say, that guy up in the gallery there, he saved a life, here's how. Reagan was the first guy to do that, and there have been maybe 150 of these people in subsequent years. I was able to find most of them and interviewed them. And I went back from I was born in to here's what it was like to be in the Oval Office and to be in the well of Congress, on up to what they're doing today. They have been wonderfully inspirational to talk to. They have great stories of courage, of grit, of overcoming challenges, simple bravery, you name it. So that's been a blast. So it's going to be Reagan, Bush, etc. 1 volume per president.
Okay.
A second project that I'm working on is Famous Last Meals. You either know that this is your last meal because you're on death row, or it comes as a surprise to you because you're a celebrity and just all of a sudden you're no longer with us. So I've collected about 350 of those stories and put it together. Another one that I'm working on is Stories by the Side of the Road. My wife and I were driving along 95 and saw the front end of a Honda on the side of the road. And we said, there's got to be a backstory to this. Why is that there? What happened? And you see all sorts of stuff on the side of the road once you're starting to think of it. Why is a toilet there? What are those white bicycles there? They tend to be memorials for people who died right at that spot. So I asked a bunch of my writerly buddies, if you see something that strikes you, give me a story. So I have, I think it's 30 or 40 now, stories like that. And they can be in the form of flash fiction. They can be poetry, haiku, movie treatments, you name it. One person even gave me a 6-word challenge story. So that's coming out shortly as well. Still I'm working, of course, on the terrorism books. 2 of those will come out within the next 12 months. These are just chronologies of terrorist events worldwide. I've done those since 1980. Have, I think, 25 volumes of those out at the moment. Finally, I've contacted 16, although it totals up to about 30, but I have 16 CIA officers who have written at least one spy-fi novel. So I know that they know how to write a novel and how to create characters and all the rest. So we're writing those chain-authored. One is called Naked Came the Spy. The title comes from Naked Came the Stranger, a 1969 book that essentially created the contemporary version of this. Agatha Christie seems to have created chain authorship. So we have that coming out, and we have a sequel as well called Moscow Syndrome, which is a look at Havana Syndrome. We're just going to be pointing fingers as to who we think is behind it. So, not doing much.
Wow, and I thought I was busy.
And Tracy and I probably will come up with something as well. We've been kicking around a few ideas here and there.
Yes, and when you're ready, I shouldn't say if, when you're ready, be sure to let me know.
Oh, thank you.
So I would love to see what you guys are up to again. So thank you so much. This has been very informative.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you for having us.
And thank you for being with us today. See you next time. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.